Alright, so ATF.
Yeah, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. We're gonna start there.
Alright, so the first episode just dropped.
Yeah.
Before you give a review
Yeah.
of the episode, what was your thoughts on the interview that went down with Inf Mega?
First of all, again, all peace to Inf Mega. You know, Inf Mega, has a very different approach in how he interviews. To me, should have been a little bit more stern and direct when it came to those questions. This brother fool, I am powerful. I don't know the brother. I never met the brother before, never spoke to the brother. I just seen him on that interview and seen him from these clips that he's doing with this project ATF. Honestly, God, I didn't appreciate what I saw in that interview. And let me explain that. Even if the God is watching, let me explain what I'm talking about. And I'm going to think before I say what I'm going to say, because once I say it, as we all know, it's out there, right? There comes a point where when a person is asked if you care about this nation, and you care about the politics, and you care about the outcome and the consequences, then there should be a concern about how you do things. There should be a concern about what you say and how you say it. Right now, this brother, I think, got knowledge in the 90s, from what I can understand from the interview, if I remember correctly. I think it was 97 that he got knowledge. From who, I don't remember off the top of my head. But it's interesting is that, for those who got in the second decade of this nation, we had a certain sternness about us, a certain code that we live by, right? I got my knowledge in 81, as I shared in the last bills. And there were certain things that God used to tell us about, knowing when to say, how to say it, and when not to say nothing. Right? There's a time and place for everything. And sometimes wisdom out of season bears no fruit. Right? As the saying goes. This interview that he did with Inf Mega revealed a lot. Right? To me, from doing the knowledge to it. Right? Because first you got to do the knowledge, as we all know. Today is, knowledge. So when you acknowledge a man's knowledge, and you hear what a man speaks when it comes out of his mouth, if he's not mindful, going to reveal exactly where he's coming from and where he wants to go. Notice what I said, where he's coming from and where he wants to go. Right? To me, this was not about the nation. This was not about the greatest story never told. This was about a brother, maybe some sisters, maybe those in Kentucky that want to put Kentucky on the map. You know what I mean? Saying that I did it first. It had to be done. Well, this story is one of those stories you don't just put out there. First of all, Allah is nothing artificial about Allah the Father. Right? We're dealing with artificial intelligence. As I like to say, how is anything artificial intelligent? You know what I mean? First of all, we got brothers and sisters who walk with Allah, who was there in the early days. They should have been very intricately a part of the program as far as being influenced. I'm quite sure some of the first 9, as it relates to who is still here, would have some reservations about this project. There were some who are open about the project. There's some who are closed-minded about the project. Matter of fact, what I'm saying, there's some who didn't even want the project to be done, which I can understand, because after looking at the episode, despite what anybody else got to say, it's all over the place, right? You start off with, having a young boy running down the beach, a white man talking about how he's monkeys, and a white woman talking about, oh, go save him, whatever the case may be. It just didn't give me what I thought would be the first episode, right? Now, me knowing Allah's history from the bomb and from various books and being around brothers who was with Allah and all that, that first episode tells the tale of the tape. It's like anything else. The first presentation or an observation you get will tell the tale. I'm interested to find out what the other 9 is going to reveal. You know, I'm interested to see that. But, you know, again, we ain't taking nothing away from the God's intent. But it seemed like it was more of self-grandizement as opposed to how would it impact the nation. How will it, you know, enforce what Allah taught? Right now, it's talking about, you know, him in his early stages of being in the mosque and studying the student enrollment and Dora, and it just, I don't know, 20 minutes ain't enough to reveal Allah's truth, and more importantly, the storyline seemed like it was very choppy in my mind, and that's just my opinion, right? I'm quite sure everybody, you know, have their own opinion on how they draw it up, you know. But like I said, it's you know, coming from where I come from, the root, and coming from the people that taught me, I would have never thought I would see something like that, because in my mind, even from the little footage that we got of Allah and the pictures that I received and the Otisville interview, I don't see Allah that way. You know what I mean? I don't idolize the Father. I pay respect and homage to what he did and who he stood for. And when I say who he stood for the realization of an active mind. You know what I mean? He stood for what was right, despite many who thought what he did by revealing this knowledge to us at that time was wrong. You know what I mean? But I don't see that him should be depicted as an avatar, and I don't see that he should be depicted on what they think the story should be, because that is not the actual story in my mind. From what I have learned over the years, that's not his story per se. And the disclaimer said these are from, I think it said these are from true events. Well, how would you know if you wasn't there? How would you know if you didn't get, you know, the information from those who were there? So yeah, it's a lot to it, God. I didn't even like the title. ATF, as I said, the first thing that popped in my mind was alcohol, tobacco, and firearm. Now, did Allah drink a little alcohol? Yeah. He had a little sip on gin and juice, you know what I mean? Did he have a little smoke? You know what I mean? As we all heard, he had a cigarette in his hand at the towers, and some Muslim brother walked in and said, "What are you doing smoking?" Yeah, he had a little smoke. You know what I mean? And then he got hit with firearms. You know what I'm saying? He got shot, right? So that's the first thing that came to my mind. You know what I mean? When I saw that ATF, what, you know what I mean? So although the breakdown of Allah the Father, I get it, but the first thing that came to my mind was that. You know, so yeah, I don't think that and again, this is me. I don't think that it was positioned right in terms of how. I think it was rushed, and I think that it could have been dealt with another way, because this is a very sensitive project and it's a very sensitive subject matter, because Allah's story is a real one because it changed so many people's lives all around the world. So you don't play with that. You don't play games with that. And from the looks of it, this looks like this is more of a me, as opposed to we. And I'm not speaking French for those who speak French out there.
Okay, nice piece. So, what if you were in a position to be an executive producer or a director?
Yeah.
Project. Someone put some money on the table for you to put a project together. What approach would you have taken, or would you take to putting together a project? Would it be AI? Would it be live action? Would it be a movie, series? Like,
it would be probably live action, real people. It wouldn't have been an avatar. It wouldn't be taking a person's voice and then putting together the image of a person and making it seem like that's them. No, it would be live. You know what I mean? I probably would have done it at a law school or in various places, you know what I mean, that shows you the dynamics of what this brother, this man did. I think another thing I probably would have done is I would have gotten a lot of the brothers and sisters, those that were still here, those that might have gone into the mosque who knew Allah, and used that as a point of reference and had more of a documentary type of interview with them to tell the story of Allah. You know what I mean? I would have done that. I would have looked at, you got some Muslim brothers right now that had a relationship with Allah. You know what I mean? When he was in the mosque. They're more prone to tell the story than someone who may have not taken everything, you know, and maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Who knows? Like I said, I don't know who this brother is. You know, I've never met him before in my life. You know what I'm saying? I've been around quite some time, and I know a lot of gods and earths out there, and they know me. So again, like I said, my approach would have been a little bit differently. But again, all due respect to the brother who strived to tell the story, but I just think it could have been a little bit better, especially with that first episode.
That's decent. All right, so